Yeah, because I know where to flow into next from that. Mm-hmm. Because I couldn't believe I heard this one.
A court has just sided with Sean Combs in one of his major lawsuits. And you gotta wonder, does this mean something for his criminal case? We're gonna lay out what happened. Plus, boy oh boy, did the judge have some words for an attorney representing a former producer who's suing Sean Combs for assault. It's something. Time to get into it all right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Sean Combs just scored a legal win. Now, to be clear, this is not in his criminal case, at least per se. I'm going to talk about what that connection could be because this is about a civil lawsuit. This is about a civil lawsuit, although I do wonder if this is going to have a connection on his criminal case. But no, this concerns one of the first people to ever file a lawsuit against him since his legal troubles began back in 2023. I am talking about his former producer, Rodney Little Rod Jones, somebody we have talked about a lot here on Sidebar. Now, we remember Jones originally filed a lawsuit against Sean Combs and others like Cuba Gooding Jr., Combs' purported chief of staff, right-hand woman Christina Coram, other corporate entities. And he filed the first one in February 2024 and then amended it in April of 2024. And he makes a lot of different claims here. He claims he was present for a shooting. He claims he was subjected to unwanted touching of his private area by Sean Combs. He claims that Combs would walk around him naked, that he tried to groom and entice him into homosexual sex. He claims that he was sexually assaulted by others in Combs' orbit, like Cuba Gooding Jr., and that he was coerced into commercial sex acts. So he is sued for various causes of action, including violations of human trafficking and racketeering statutes, essentially the allegation that Combs operated a criminal enterprise. Now, there has been a legal effort on the part of Sean Combs to have this complaint dismissed against him and various related entities, and he made several arguments. He argued that Jones failed to properly plead or state a claim for the racketeering, human trafficking, or sexual assault claims, which is necessary for civil actions lawsuits. You need to allege particular facts, particular details, or evidence to show that there was a violation of the law and that you were injured. You need to properly allege a viable legal claim. For instance, he argues that Jones didn't properly lay out the elements of a racketeering or RICO claim. And Combs argues that Jones can't just rely on and cite Combs' criminal indictment that, yes, charges him with racketeering conspiracy as well as sex trafficking and a prostitution charge. He can't just rely on that to support his allegations in this civil case. But Combs also argued that Jones doesn't have standing to sue for RICO. He doesn't have a legal right to sue because he didn't suffer an economic injury from an alleged RICO violation. And then he makes another argument that Jones failed to plead predicate acts for RICO. Because you see, for RICO, you need to allege and lay out particular facts showing that there was an underlying crime that forms the basis for the RICO count. In other words, what were the alleged crimes you say this criminal enterprise was engaged in? So Combs makes the argument that Jones didn't do that properly. In terms of a violation of the sex trafficking count, he makes other arguments for why that should be dismissed. For instance, he makes the argument that Jones failed to properly allege.
Christina's a defendant. So I don't know, and that's a great question. Where is she? Because you would think she'd be in custody right now. You would think she'd at least be arrested, but I think she's just going to be called to court. I don't think she's going to be necessarily arrested, but she is an actual defendant. That is true. She's an actual defendant. But I think as far as the charges go, they all just went to Sean Combs. But that is very true. Where is Christina Coram? Hell, while we're at it, guess what else missing? Since we asking where people at. Since we asking where people at. Because this was goddamn funny. This had to been the funniest shit I read all day. Since we asking where people at. This had to been the funniest shit I read all damn day. Look who done went missing and skipped town on him. Mr. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid it coming for you. Aaron Hall has allegedly gone missing as his and Diddy's sexual assault accuser attempts to serve him. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I bet your ass did go on the run. I bet your ass did go on the run. Know why you really went on the run, nigga? Gloria Velez is why you went on the run, nigga. Because Gloria Velez said you tried to sacrifice her back in the day. You had that stopped by Tupac. Matter of fact, we can relive it. Why not?
Can't no bitch out there say that she handled my shit.
Really?
My father's a pastor, so my whole thing is that
How calm it went there.
my grandfather being a pimp, it's just like I'm third generation Aaron Hall III. My father's is Aaron Hall Jr. He's a pastor, so I just skipped over it like checkers. And my whole thing is that if you never heard a girl say that no fucked up trick shit about Aaron Hall, then you understand that Let's Chill shit is some real shit.
So that was basically like from some life experience?
Now, my whole thing is that I just think that girls think that a whole lot of guys, run after they shit. You know what I mean?
Talk to me. You can say what you want on there.
But a whole lot of girls out there with the umbilical cords, them young 1970s, 1980s bitches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They try to go up there with the fresh out the pussy shit and think they can get like a nigga like Aaron Hall. I'm historical dick.
Yeah.
They fuck with me.
That's right.
If they fuck with me, it's a big dick. Everybody know my son's mother. Everybody know that shit. So
yeah, that's Gloria, and tell them about it.
So
that's who?
When you put errands on it, when you fuck a bitch for 3 days,
That's who, baby mother?
and take the bitch hand and take him out of the man's hand, then you a retired pimp.
Yeah.
But at the time, as soon as I came to South Beach, I just grabbed her, and she'll tell you the same story. I just grabbed her and fucked her for 3 days, then Aaron's got on her pussy.
So you just grabbed the young 16, 17-year-old Gloria Velez, fucked her for 3 days, and she's all of a sudden your baby mother. Great one, Aaron.
With an apostrophe S.
Yeah.
Like it's Aaron.
I mean,
with
it was
3
like
colors on it.
Yeah, crazy glue.
And my whole thing is this.
Proud of it, isn't he?
That if niggas can't handle me, I'm not gonna never let them get my last name. If you can't handle my dick, you ain't getting my last name.
Yeah, you see how he even stuttered when he said the niggas part, right? Oh, we know what you meant.
So I've been single for 50 years.
All right now.
A whole lot of niggas out there from Jamie Foxx to like Denzel Washington to whoever. Everybody know me.
Yeah.
So everybody know if I say it, I'm gonna fuck it to death.
Why do all these niggas know what your dick size is, sir?
Like the fucking public, you feel me?
Yeah.
So niggas can't say nothing about it. Them square.
I like the fucking public, so niggas can say nothing. So you just pretty much confirmed that Jamie Foxx, Denzel Washington, probably Jodeci, but via the court case, have all seen your dick, huh? Interesting.
Ass niggas, them precious cake little dick niggas.
Yeah.
I like for them niggas to see how I fuck. Like if you
Interesting.
speak to Jodeci or Puffy or any of them niggas.
Interesting.
They been at my house. They all see
Interesting.
me fuck. They all know I'm a big nigga.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
If a bitch touch my dick and she say my dick is small, then she's a lying bitch.
Yeah.
Tell her to name the tattoo that's on my ribs that says warning. You get this dick, I'm fucking you up. The thing is, a whole lot of niggas write about taking girls out to shop.
Okay. So I don't lose my place in my video, you know. Actually, I might have it still. Ah, yes. Just so I don't lose my place in my Diddy files, you know? You sound loose place, man.
Luke said that he introduced you to Gloria Velez.
Luke didn't introduce me to no Gloria Velez. We can call Luke right now. You know what I mean?
He said it in an interview a while back.
Look what I'm saying to you. She was standing up with a Jamaican rapper named Mad Lion.
Okay, I know who that is.
Big Pun, Fat Joe, Method Man, like whoever you speak to, just ask them how I did it. I got out the limo, grabbed her hand, went upstairs and fucked her. Luke didn't never fucking introduce me to anybody.
Okay.
In his life. I love Luke to death.
Mm-hmm.
He just had on.
But can't nobody look, the reason why he's saying he introduced me to her, because it's a good thing to say, okay, I introduced Aaron Hall to this girl. I took her. Me and Gloria's cool. We got cool and
I took her. Said that shit loud and proud. Yeah, look at the Don Juan Bishop like, yeah, tell him that this too, man. Go ahead, man. They gonna get his ass one day, I tell you. I heard a few stories about Terrence. Let me tell you, I done heard a few stories about this nigga. I done heard about him and Jimmy Fox. I'm sorry. I done heard a few times about Terrence. And then when I hear him talk, I said, damn. I can't look at Menace the same no more. I just can't. You done fucked me up. I can't look at Menace the same. I can't look at it no more. I can't look at. That's a tyrant term. I can't look at Menace the side the same no more. After hearing about what Jimmy did, I can't hit, man. Why? I mean, why I keep hearing you with men? And that, see, when I watched the movie, I said, why is your earring on the other side of your ear? Why? Why are you doing this to me? Wrong choice of words. Let me get back to this interview.
2 weeks. Mm-hmm. You feel me? I'm a boss. I ain't gonna argue with you about no shit and you an umbilical cord, bitch. You fucking 35, 36 years old. I'm not gonna disrespect you, but I'm a boss motherfucker. And I love my son, so I ain't gonna break probation by fucking with you and not being able to speak to him again. Right. You feel what I'm saying? Right. But when I speak to a nigga that got dick and balls, he can never say introduce me to.
So, he just confirmed something, did he not? That Gloria is how old right now? Okay, so Gloria Velez age. She's 46 right now. Okay. Aaron Hall is 60. You do the math.
Oh, bitch! Nobody ain't never introduced me to a bitch in their life. I wish they did. The thing is that you can ask Gloria, though. It has nothing to do with me. No. I don't like talking about no man. No. We both Adam first.
You know something? I just remembered that Gloria had tattooed Aaron's right above her.
In black, red, and green.
Right above her vagina.
Right above it with a parenthesis with an S.
Right.
Aaron's.
It belongs to...
Look. When I saw her, she was dancing with Luke and them. I didn't know she was a puppy, you know what I mean?
That's right.
She was tall, she was big, blonde hair, bone with the black pant leather. I was like, I'm getting that. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows I couldn't even really speak then. I had a speech impediment. I don't stutter anymore. Mm-hmm. So I just went there and just grabbed her hand and went inside the hotel and gave it to her. You feel me? So she gonna say Luke is lying. You feel me? Okay. Because I don't lie on my dick. You feel what I'm saying? My mother was Puerto Rican, from Ponce. So
it's the admitting of the rape that he keeps emphasizing. But let's hear from the horse's mouth. I keep having a bad choice of words tonight, don't I?
Life. So yeah, let's get right into it, okay? Absolutely. So it's the year 1996. Mm-hmm. I am dating Aaron Hall. I am 17 years old and pregnant at the time, I know. We're actually in LA, and he was going to sign with Death Row Records, okay? So he's recording, doing music, he's doing video shoots, and I was, part of it.
Oh, Dawn tried to save him. He tried to save him. He tried so many different ways of saying, "Nigga, shut up." Nigga, shut up. The Don just kept going like this. Don just said, "You know what? He ain't gonna shut up." He ain't gonna shut up.
We were living out in a hotel, because we wasn't, living there. We was just recording, and he was just getting a feel of the whole, everybody's going to sign with Death Row. You got Pac, you got Casey and JoJo, you got Snoop. Mm-hmm. It was amazing to be a part, Mm-hmm. So, Aaron's super talented, and they want him to be a part of Death Row Records. We were invited to a Mother's Day event. 1996, and all of Death Row family and friends were supposed to come and watch, their relatives perform for them. So I thought that was a beautiful thing. I was going to get my hair and nails done, and Aaron was like, I can't take you. Tupac is going to take you and make sure you're good and safe. I was like, oh, okay. We're in LA, and, my first time out there, so okay, he's going to make sure I'm safe. I didn't think nothing of it. And at that time, him and Pac were talking. Things seemed a little antsy. He was more on edge than usual, Aaron. And so Aaron said he had to go to a meeting. That's why he couldn't, take me to get my hair and nails done. And it was an important meeting, and he couldn't miss it. So Pac's going to hold me down. So I go to the salon. Me and Pac had deep conversations. That was the first time I've ever been alone with him and actually one-on-one. I mean, he schooled me on life. He schooled me on becoming a mom. He schooled me on just so many things that I would never forget our conversation, ever forget our conversation about this industry. I mean, me being 17 and all this is in front of me, and it's a wow factor, all these celebrities and, in the studio and video shoots, and this man is so deeply spiritual, so connected with, himself and the worldly things that are going on. He just knew so much, and I'm grateful that I got that opportunity to have with him. And then we met up with Aaron after I got my nails and hair done. We went to the hotel, and Aaron's extra stress and pacing back and forth, and him and Pac start talking. So he's extra mean, extra just everything, and I felt like there was something going on. It's more than just business. So to let you know, allegedly, when he was, going to this meeting, he was kind of pleading for my life. Some of these people, to be down with the cause, you got to sacrifice people, which is insane to me. And allegedly, they told him, there come a dime a dozen of her. She could be replaced. I don't care if she's pregnant. You can get a pretty young thing, and it's no big deal. So allegedly, he said, no, I'll be damned. I'm not going to do that. I love her. I'll die for her. So they went back and forth, and allegedly it was said, it's going to happen if you like it or not. So he buys me a white dress to go to the event, right? And the day of the event now, we're getting dressed, and he's extra antsy and very mean to me. I mean, he was mean, but he was mean. And everybody knows he was, violent, verbally, physically, emotionally. But you got to understand, I was 17, naive, young, so I loved him. When you love someone, you make excuses for people, he treats you so well one minute, and the next minute he could be so ugly, and then you hold on to the goodness in them, So that's what I did throughout the violence in our relationship. So the day of it, we're getting dressed, and we're leaving the hotel, and we're waiting outside in front for our limo. And Casey and JoJo was standing outside waiting for their limo as well. And Aaron was just grabbing me and just being aggressive, and I hate this dress. And I'm like, you bought it for me. Like, what are you, like, you crazy? Like, what's going on? Like, why are you he was so angry. He wanted to argue with me, but I wasn't giving it to him. I was not. There was something eerie in the air for me, that it was just something different. And Casey and JoJo was talking to him and trying to calm him down and pray with him. So right there, that was kind of a God sent of angel of both of them, trying to calm him down, pray with him, talk to him, and trying to refocus his mind. So I say this before we go into the venue. When he was pleading for my life and telling that, you know, he doesn't want nothing happening to me, but he's still taking me to the venue. You know, I went over this over and over in my head. Why would he take me? Why would he put a white dress on me? It's like, you know, dressing the lamb and giving her to the wolves. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has different levels of love or how they should love someone. Obviously, he doesn't know how to love right. But I would never put my loved one in that situation, knowing that you're going into the wolves' den. You know what's going to happen. You know what they want to do. But you should have take me home on a plane or say, leave me alone. Don't ever talk to me. I play that back over and over again. You know, the ride to I could honestly remember how I felt, the scared young girl, you know, petrified, just emotionally distraught, but so in love with him at the time. Like literally in love with him.
So paint this picture, right? Remember, Aaron said before he didn't talk. He didn't really know how to talk. So pretty much his silence right now is not so golden. Especially since he's already had he's already expressed anger towards her. He's not doing any type of smooth talking, any type of baby it's going to be all right, none of that. And she's just in fear and has nothing but, you know, doubt in what's going to happen to her life because, like she just said, she already had that feeling like, I just feel like I'm being dressed like a lamb being served to a bunch of wolves in a second. It's a very scary feeling for someone to be that young and going through that.
And, you know, I want to give them excuses. You know, that's what a lot of women do when you're abused. We give them excuses after excuses, but.
Exactly. And Abundance, what's going on? What's going on, Abundance? You just said it too. He groomed her. Just that feeling that she's having right now. Like she said, yeah, I want to make excuses for him, but, you know, he groomed her.
You know, maybe he felt obligated to. You know, he wanted to be famous. He wanted them to be accepted. But you got to have limits and sacrifices, you know, to want to be rich or to want to be famous. You got to have limits. You know, you can't. That limit of sacrificing a person shouldn't be ever.
Right.
So we go in the car. We drive to the venue. We pull up. He grabs my hand. You know, the same thing he always says, look at me, don't look at no man. You know, an aggressive person that, you know, super controlling. You know, the same routine. We walk in. So when we walk in before we enter the venue, of all the people and the cameras and all the family that's sitting down at the tables, this old lady was walking out, being escorted out, actually. A mature lady. She was like in the 70s or 80s year old. Had an entourage, and she stopped Aaron and I. She grabbed my belly, and I was only 4 months, but super skinny. I wasn't even showing. And she says, don't worry, your son is going to be all right. He's going to be healthy, and he's going to be good, which we didn't know if we're having a boy or a girl. Then she looks at Aaron and tells him, you know what? You be good to her, and you protect her. And she prayed on us. That's God. God sent an angel right there because his whole demeanor changed. Because he was trying to get angry in the car. He was trying to start a fight, maybe to justify what's going to happen or was going to happen. You know what I'm saying? You know, I play that over and over in my mind. Like, if that lady didn't stop, or, you know, if she didn't say a prayer, or Casey and JoJo didn't pray outside the hotel, you know, that was God sending him, like, you know, what are you doing, Aaron? You know what I mean? You know of God. You know what I mean? You come from church. Right, so we walk into the venue. Cameras, you know, video cameras, taking pictures. So we greet people, still by his side. We walk into the back of the venue, you know, because there's a stage. And so we walk in the back of the stage. He pulls a chair to the side of you see the stage, and there's the back entrance when you're performing and you're waiting to go on stage. So he puts a chair, sit here. I said, okay. But he was serious and aggressive. I was like, damn, he's like, I'm still have no idea. I'm oblivious to what's going on or what's going to happen or what they tend to do. This female, like, runs towards Aaron, and then he walks her halfway, grabs her, and they start talking, and they're in each other's face. So a 17-year-old's mind, you know what I'm thinking? They fucking. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Right? She's approaching, she's screaming, so I'm thinking,
Right.
oh, I'm here, I'm pregnant.
Right.
You know, she's upset, Aaron's a hoe. You know, he's the nasty man, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm like, listen, what's so crazy and mind-boggling to me, like, I would never hit Aaron back, even though he was physically, you know, physical with me. But anybody else that would confront me, I would fight. I was a fighter. I was brave. But with him, I didn't step up for myself until I had my child. Then I was like, enough is enough. But so when she was screaming, and I was like, what up, bitch? Let's go, you know? So that was my mentality. That's hot. Even though I was pregnant, I was like, let's go, bitch. So I'm thinking Aaron's fucking her. She's upset. I'm here. He brought me here. So the mood changed. People started moving towards Aaron and I, men. And then I said, ooh, it felt eerie. I said, something's different. This is not you know, I'm fucking your man. It's a, you know, when you're hard, you feel something's wrong.
Right. Okay.
And then, so I shut up quick. I like was looking at the room and seeing, I'm trying to figure out what the fuck's really going on. Because I see the fear now in Aaron's face. Like, shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? So I see the fear that it's more than just they fucking, right? So within
Took his style more ways than one.
commotion and people started moving towards, and you see the dudes, Pac runs. He runs towards Aaron, grabs up the girl, and says, nobody fucking touch her. Points to me. And he goes, she's family, she's Aaron's wifey. I told you nobody fucking touches her. So I looked and I was like, my mind's like, what the fuck is going on? He drags her out the side of the door. You know, there's always like back entrance to lead outside. And it was a back entrance, and a lot of people follow. When Pac moves, people follow. And they followed him outside. And then Aaron standing in front of me like a guard dog. He was like, don't move, don't say shit. And I'm like, yeah, I had no idea what was going on. So we waited patiently until Pac came inside. And, you know, my heart's racing because, you know, your senses tell you something's wrong. That this is not right. You know, especially the people that you see around in the back. You know, it's not like we're in blue tuxedos. You know, we're in an all-white party. You know, we got some thugs. We got some gangsters. You know, it's real live shit that can go pop off. And I got that, but I didn't know how real it was going to get, or what they wanted to do, I should say. So Pac comes in and comes up to us and be like, you know, you guys are good. And looks at Aaron and says, don't stay long. Like dead up like that, don't stay long. And then hugged us and then went on stage. And he's my God, not knowing at that point he was my angel. He saved my life. I mean, I'm happy that Aaron stood up and grabbed and he was like, no, you know, but I'm mad that he brought me there anyways, you know, because he had a choice. You know, God always gives you a choice. Demons always give you a fucking choice. You know, that was his choice to bring me there to those wolves, you know, a lamb 17 and pregnant. Yeah. So maybe he was contemplating with himself. I don't know if he was battling himself, but Pac saved my life. And I'm grateful that he saved my life. And we stood for a little while and we said goodbye. And before we said goodbye and left, one of the demons came up to me and said, you're blessed, you know, and said a bunch of other things that I will not say. But I mean, I was looking a demon in the eyes, you know, he was telling me that you almost got. And I felt it in my soul. Like when he stared at me and looked at me and was like, oh, you just passed, you almost died. Like, and I felt it. Like I felt his aura, his heaviness. You feel that shit, you know? And then we left and then we went to the hotel. He didn't go to any other recordings. He didn't go to any other video shoots. And we went on a plane and left a few days later. We never turned around. And then 4 months later, Pac dies. And I was devastated, you know, because in the beginning, I didn't know that he saved my life. I know he saved maybe an ass whipping because it looked like more than one wanted to kick my ass.
4 months later. And that was why I always thought to myself after I heard this story, I said, well, if this was just 4 months later that he passed, what if this was the real reason that they killed him? The Diddy shit, Biggie, everything, Suge. What if this was the real reason? Quincy Jones even. Remember, turning down Quincy Jones? Because Quincy Jones asked to fuck him in the ass and he said, I don't get down like that. Because he was fucking Quincy's daughter. And this happens. Him literally stopping a sacrifice happening. Big shout out to Tupac. Rest in peace, yo. Unfortunately, we get back to this crazy news.
Necessary elements of force, fraud, or coercion that were used to make him engage in a commercial sex act. For the sexual assault claim, Combs argues that Jones didn't lay out key facts like the where, the when, the how of the alleged assault, that there's not sufficient details that are needed in a complaint. Then Sean Combs takes aim at the premises liability cause of action. So that is where somebody gets injured on your property and you're responsible, you're liable. So here the allegation would be that Jones was allegedly assaulted on property belonging to Sean Combs. But Combs argues there was a lack of foreseeability that the harm would occur. So here's an example. If I own a store and I don't wipe down a spill on aisle 4 and somebody slips, I'm responsible because it was foreseeable that that would happen. I neglected my duty. There you go, liability. So when it comes to the idea that Cuba Gooding Jr. allegedly sexually assaulted Jones on Combs' yacht, Combs argues, even if you assume this happened, there was no way for me to have predicted this. That citing a news story about Cuba Gooding Jr. pleading guilty to forcibly kissing a waitress, it doesn't provide me any reason to believe that this actor would have propensity to sexually assault men. In terms of the emotional distress claim, Combs makes the argument that they are duplicative of other causes of action alleged in the case, and that he didn't properly plead the element of extreme and outrageous conduct that is necessary for that claim. And in terms of the breach of contract claim, in other words, that Jones says Combs never really paid him for the work that he did, Combs makes the argument that this claim fails because the purported agreement was not in writing, and it needed to be in writing under the law. Hey everybody, this is a Morgan & Morgan legal alert. Emerging reports reveal that hair color products main evidence they can take judicial notice of certain facts or allegations, meaning take them as true, and incorporate them into his complaint in a way. And here Jones argues that the court should take judicial notice of the allegations from the federal criminal indictment that Combs faces and a number of other sexual assault and misconduct lawsuits that Combs faces, and use that to support Jones's claims in his complaint. And he argues that he didn't fail to state a RICO claim, for example, because based on the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, what he had to say in a press conference, we're talking about Damian Williams, after Sean Combs' arrest and formal charging, and also the federal indictment itself, Combs and his enterprise, he makes the argument, are presumed guilty of being a RICO criminal organization, and that he has properly pled the structure and hierarchy and members of this enterprise. Tell you what, presumed guilty, we're going to get back to that in a minute. The court definitely had something to say about that. Now, when it comes to the sex trafficking claim, Jones argues that the alleged shooting, the alleged assaults, the alleged displaying of firearms, the alleged threats, those are all evidence of force, fraud, or coercion. In terms of the claim of sexual assault and the argument, well, you needed to provide more details for this claim, well, Jones responds, and I'm just going to read this to you verbatim, if the defendants would like plaintiff to draw a diagram, plaintiff would happily oblige. It's quite the response. Premises liability, Cuba Gooding Jr. more specifically, Jones responds, to say that it was unforeseeable is laughable at best and downright ridiculous at worst. Cuba Gooding Jr. is an Oscar-winning actor who has fallen from grace. His conviction was international news. Sean Combs knew or should have known that he had an issue keeping his hands to himself. And there are other arguments made regarding other claims, but you get the point. You get the gist of what we're going to. So now let's get to the judge's decision here. Okay. So, in this 31-page written order and opinion from federal judge Paul Oken, the court granted Sean Combs' motion to dismiss in part and denied it in part. Let me explain. So first, the judge lays out the standard by which to dismiss a complaint or cause of action or claim under the federal rules. That a plaintiff, the person suing, has to lay out, quote, enough facts to state a claim to relief that is plausible on its face. A claim is plausible when the plaintiff pleads factual content that allows the court to draw the reasonable inference that the defendant is liable for the conduct alleged. In other words, you need to make out a viable, real, legitimate claim that the court can actually grant relief for. That if you lay out all these allegations, taking them as true, there's actually a legal claim here. Now, interestingly,
here's where Rod need to produce some of that video footage that he said he had, because he only put some of the pictures and whatnot from the video footage. He didn't present any footage yet. Here's where that footage needs to actually come into play. All the extra pictures and video footage, this is where he needs to display all of that to make this motion to dismiss vanish in vamoose.
The court even lays out the legal reasoning here. The judge actually did something. The judge actually issued a warning to somebody that we have talked about before on previous sidebars. Tyrone Blackburn, Rodney Jones' attorney.
Mr. Fuck Up from Tiffany Haddish in them lawsuit. Oh my goodness gracious. This is the idiot that was writing all the defamation of character, you might as well call it, and slander and whatnot in the cases. This is him.
So first, the court basically says that Tyrone Blackburn made, quote, false claims against defendants in this case and acted incompetently, but nonetheless, the court doesn't feel that he acted necessarily in bad faith. But quite the statement, to say the least. And then the court cites something that we have discussed before. Previous allegations that Tyrone Blackburn didn't properly investigate other cases he was a part of, and how he has a pending referral to the Southern District of New York's disciplinary committee. So why does the court mention all this? Well, Judge Oken writes, in light of this, the court finds much of Blackburn's conduct regarding defendant's motion to dismiss to be unsettling. Blackburn's filings are replete with inaccurate statements of law, conclusory accusations, and inappropriate ad hominem attacks on opposing counsel. For example, in urging the court to consider a grand jury indictment of Combs on related criminal charges, Blackburn writes, as evidenced by U.S. Attorney Williams' press conference in the grand jury indictment, defendant Sean Combs and the Combs RICO enterprise are presumed guilty of being a RICO criminal organization. That any licensed member of the bar would espouse such an absurd understanding of the law is not just disturbing, but shocking.
So, in other words, right, this is why I say what Tyrone was pretty much doing was defamation of character and slander. Remember we was reading back the lawsuit and we was like, yo, why are you adding all that extra stuff? Why are you adding all these extra adjectives about what, he's actually done and what he's been convicted of and all this other shit? Or not say not convicted of, all these things that he's been accused of prior to this. And you're trying to actually compare the two or insinuate because of that he should be charged and found guilty and not. Why are you adding all that in there? We kept saying that too. You're like, you adding too much sauce on it, brother. This is pretty much like you throwing a bottle of fire in the ocean. You threw a flaming cocktail, a Molotov cocktail in the ocean, hoping that it was gonna burn. Nigga, you threw it in the ocean. Everything already cool, baby. It's already flowing. Why are you trying to add shit that don't belong?
Then, rather than focusing on the claims pleaded in the lawsuit, Blackburn writes that it is evident from the multiple civil lawsuits in the 14-page indictment the kind of sexually deviant monster Sean Combs is. Both the operative complaint and Blackburn's opposition brief are full of similar irrelevant insults, misstatements, and exaggerations. In response to defense counsel's understandable objections, Blackburn hurls schoolyard taunts at them, writing that it is clear they are obsessed with me, and although initially flattering, their obsession has become creepy. While the court will not hold Blackburn's antics against Jones at this point, it warns Blackburn that further misconduct may lead to sanctions or to referral for discipline. Now, honestly, I'm not shocked by this, okay? I was shocked by some of the language that Blackburn had been using in these filings. I was just as shocked as the court. So I'm not surprised here that the judge is calling him out and essentially warning him, stop it. But now let's get back into the substantive arguments about this motion to dismiss. So I want to get into whether any or all of Jones's claims should be dismissed. So let's start with the RICO racketeering claim. So the court explains that to establish a RICO claim, you have to say that there was a violation of the RICO statute, that there was an injury, and that that injury had to be caused by predicate acts as part of the criminal enterprise. The problem for Rodney Jones, as laid out by the court, is that his claims of trauma, mental health problems, emotional pain and suffering, and embarrassment, none of those injuries are sufficiently related or tied to the alleged RICO violations. That's the conclusion from the court. And even Jones claims that he wasn't paid for his work on the Combs Love album, what is essentially a breach of contract claim, but that, under the law, is not a RICO predicate act. And that's even if he makes the argument he wasn't paid because he refused to participate in the racketeering enterprise. The court says the problem with that? Jones didn't even make that argument, apparently. And furthermore, none of the underlying predicates or underlying alleged crimes or offenses of RICO, sex, drugs, gun trafficking, none of that really affected the defendant's alleged refusal to pay Jones. Rather, Jones even alleges that he felt pressured to participate in all of this illicit activity on behalf of Combs, not necessarily because of the contract at play, but because he thought that he could get Grammy Awards or expensive homes or future projects and large cash payments. And then another problem for Jones, the court emphasizes, is that he even throws around the word fraud a lot regarding his contract, but he never identifies any specific misrepresentations that were made regarding his contract. So as the court explains, in sum, whether or not Jones has adequately alleged the existence of a RICO enterprise, he has not tied the activities of that enterprise to defendant's breach of contract or any other business or property harm incurred by Jones. It also bears reiterating that Jones fails to address any of these arguments in his opposition brief. And while the court prefers to decide issues on the merits, it should not be necessary to root around a 402-paragraph complaint to contrive novel arguments on Jones' behalf. The court's basically saying, we're not going to do the work for you. So in other words, the RICO racketeering claims were thrown out. They were dismissed against Combs Global Enterprises, and Christina Coram. That is a big win for Sean Combs. And a quick aside here, before we go any further.
That is kind of crazy. And just so that everybody's clear, look, hear it again.
Novel arguments on Jones' behalf. Court's basically saying, we're not going to do the work for you. So in other words, the RICO racketeering claims were thrown out. They were dismissed against Combs Global Enterprises, and Christina Coram.
So, pretty much, Christina Coram, Lucian Grange, definitely walk free now because they were the only ones that were named in the Little Rod case as far as being defendants. They have nothing to do with the superseding indictment of the courts with the state versus with the Supreme Court versus Sean Combs. So pretty much Rodney's case is thrown out. Damn near. Because if that part is out of here, the RICO Enterprise part, you took the big chunk out of his case, pretty much. All you got now is, well, he didn't pay me. Well, tough titty. He ain't in contract. Now it's like, what do you got? Poor Rodney. But I mean, like I said before, things just didn't sound right when it was like, I called it before because I was like, as much as I want him to go down for this, you look too much like a participant. There are too many situations where you look like a comfortable participant. Not the, I'm recording this so it's okay later on. Nah, you shouldn't have been in those situations, consistently for any amount of money. That's really what the judge wanted to say.